Well, the brandles are not available for employees.
I know. So, he knows that. He really wants. I think that's why he wants the brass heel plate in the in a Knicks boot.
No. Hello, welcome to the Knicks Boots from Start to Finish podcast. I'm your host, Schuyler Mao, joined by Lucas Grassberger. I've got Andrew behind the glass. Thanks for joining us today, Andrew.
Hello.
Oh, that's his first
He
recorded
speaks.
words. Wow, okay. Today, we just wanted to talk through some of the new options that we've added to the design your own, build your own section of the website, especially on kind of the lace ups and some of the other options. We'll kind of talk through that. Yeah, I mean, I think we're known for a lot of customizable options. We get a lot of requests for a lot of these things. And sometimes we'll do them, sometimes we can't or won't. And so we just decided, why not just make these kind of front facing, and then there's less confusion for the customer service team on what's possible and what's not, and they can just look on the website and be like, hey, yes, this is an option. We're happy to do that for you.
Yeah, I think for a long time, almost 4 years or so, 5 years, we've been looking for that balance of we want to offer a lot of options. We also want to streamline in the sense that it's easy for us to process orders, and it used to be someone sitting there hand typing every single order, every single line item,
and make them.
Yeah, and be able to make them without having any issues. So we came to this kind of middle ground where it's all the normal stuff, all the standard stuff that we know we can do well, we can do easily, we can process it easily, it's easy to put it on the BOM. Those are all still there, and then we have an option to opt in for more options. So this is stuff like mismates and custom uppers on the sizing side, and then little things like sewing thread color and maybe some more customized hardware options. We get a lot of requests for a top hook instead of an eyelet. That's something that, of course, is fairly simple to do in theory, but there's a lot that goes into it in terms of having to make notes, make sure it's something that stands out to the person who's doing the hardware, because they know every single boot they run through, they put an eyelet in the top, and so when there's one with a hook, it can just kind of it can throw off the flow a little bit, and so it's
significant, right? Because then that person has to get up, get a different tool set, or rearrange what they're doing,
exactly.
Manually do it rather than using the machine. That's just one example, but that's kind of true of all this stuff. Sewing thread color, okay, sounds simple. It's simple if that's all you're doing that day, and that's what you're doing. But if you're making everything with black thread, and then all of a sudden a brown or a white one comes through, then you have to change out the spool, and then you have to change it back when you go back to the other boots. And so I don't know, we have to charge for some of this stuff because it does reduce our efficiency from a productivity standpoint. It also there's a cost involved on the customer service side, right? Because we do review every single one of these bills of materials multiple times, believe it or not, and making sure that they're correct and that they're highlighted. We highlight specific options that are maybe more likely to be missed. So I don't know. There's a lot that goes into it that always surprises me. But yeah, let's just talk through some of these new options that I think are, well, at least mismates. We've done mismates before, but it was always kind of an informal thing. Now we're hey, if you really think you need mismates, then you can get that on the front end. Custom uppers, kind of same deal. I think some new options are interesting, like the full leather lining, the full polar thin lining. So right now, the polar thin, if you select that as an option, that's just the vamp and the insole. So if you want to get the whole boot lined with the polar thin aerogel, it's now possible. That goes all the way up the shaft.
Yeah, so we'd line all the way up the quarters, the uppers, all the way to the top of the boot. And with that, because of the way the polar thin lining is, you would get a leather lining on top of that. So we have the option for full leather lining and then full polar thin lining. Full polar thin lining is kind of both.
I think that's one of the best deals on the site, to be honest.
Probably,
even at $200.
That polar thin stuff is
it's expensive, and it also means you've got to essentially layer every single part of the boot. before you make it. Yeah, I mean, sewing thread color I think is fairly self-explanatory. Custom hardware options,
Yeah. So this is like I was talking about the top hook.
Yep.
Or like with our new Builder Pro HD and the other HD series work boots that we're coming out with, you can get a top logger eye, so it's a larger eyelet at the top, and then also added an option that just says C notes, where if you click that, you can type in some notes. So if you want, the top two to be hooks and the rest to be eyes or something along those lines, we can do that for you, which is a pretty common request for like a 5 or 6 inch boot.
Yep.
So there's some stuff you can do there. Obviously, if it's really wacky, we'll probably reach out to you. Like if you ask for the top 4 eyelets to be hooks or something that doesn't work, we'll reach out and be like, hey, that's probably not gonna work how you think it will.
Yeah, double elastic toe. So if you just really want that stiff toe,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Important to note that is still not a safety toe.
Correct. Yes.
It'll give you some good bump protection, some protection if you kick stuff, because a normal elastic toe, it's like paper thin. So that can collapse if you set something on it or something like that.
You can add tanker straps.
Yeah.
If you want to get crazy.
Yeah.
With the laces too.
Mm-hmm.
A knife pocket. For your EDC needs.
Yeah.
You can be like a pirate out there.
Yeah.
Pull your knife out. A boot knife.
Exactly. If you happen
for
to have
only for folders. This is only for folders.
Yeah.
We do not recommend.
Yeah, fixed blade wouldn't work for
blades
this.
in there.
And for that knife pocket, you can do 4 options, and you can check as many as those as you want. So, if you want a pocket on the inside left boot, you can do that. If you want it on the outside right boot, you can do that. If you want it on inside and outside of both left and right boots, 4 pockets total, you can do that.
We've got the wingtip.
Mm-hmm.
Which, if you'll remember if some of you may remember, we did that for the Trenton and Heath collab a couple years ago. So it's a vibe, it's a look.
Mm-hmm.
I actually think it looks pretty good.
Yeah.
But the medallion toe cap, which is essentially broguing, basically.
Yeah. So this is something we used to offer a while back, and we stopped offering it partly because we had to hand punch every single hole, so it's kind of a pain. But with some modern, dies and things like that, we can make it fairly simple to do, but it's still a little extra work. Gives that little extra flair to your toe cap, rather than just stitch lines. You have some broguing.
You can make your boot a station boot. You get the lace-in zipper.
Yep.
We will even single row stitch for you, which is that's a change. It's a change.
I feel like that's another one of the ones where, like, in theory, it's super simple. Right, it's like just don't do 2, do 1.
Yeah.
But our guys on the Soul Stitchers, they're doing 2 rows on everything. They're just running all day, just doing the double row, double row, double row. So noting single row, making sure it gets caught, making sure it gets done takes a little extra processing.
Well, it's a lot of. It is like all these things add up, right?
Yeah.
And so that's where you're like, well, why can't you just do this? I'm like, well, we can, but we have to not do something else. And so like
exactly.
I don't know, you get in habits as you're making things, you get good at it. And then we kind of throw these wrenches in here like, oh, this is a single row instead of a double row, or this is a logger eyelet instead of a normal one. And all these things just kind of add up to slow down the flow.
Right.
So that's why we have to cost that in.
Right. A single instance of this, like in a vacuum, it's like, it's not that big of a deal. Maybe takes 5 extra minutes. But 40, 50, 60, 70, 100 boots where things have to get checked, it really adds up.
Yeah. Double midsole for you double midsole people out there.
And I think the biggest request, 2-tone.
Is that the biggest request?
I think it is.
Wow.
Yeah. 2-tone options. So in the past, this has been available on like our standard like work boot like Builder Pro Packers. Those had some 2-tone options with work leathers. Now on all of these build your own boots, you can do 2-tone with our work or heritage leather. So you've got work leather, heritage leather, even bison. Wow, sorry, my brain just shut off for a second there.
Yeah, so a lot of things now. You can 2-toner with whatever you want, which I think is crazy.
Yeah.
And a little bit of a departure from some of the stuff we've been doing over the last few years. So, just want to make things as easy as possible for people. and make sure that we're kind of economically modeling it out correctly. But yeah, if you want some of the more esoteric options out there, I think we now offer them.
Yeah.
What amongst these would you be most interested in?
Out of all of these options, I think the medallion toe cap adds a really nice look. Also, a knife pocket on your boot, work boot with a little knife pocket. You can put your, Milwaukee fastback in there or something.
Sure.
I think that's a nice add-on. And I think it's important to note also that we have different options for the different models. So like Chelsea Boot, Build Your Own, has like options for the flaps and like things like that. The Station Master has height
Custom
options
heights,
again, which is something that we took away because we were having to hand cut all of those.
Yep.
Even like the option of removing the top strap on the Station Master required hand cutting because we have that little V cut into the upper. So we're bringing a lot of those things back that were available on request, but not like normally available on the website.
Yep.
Trying to make it a little bit easier for you to get exactly what you want.
Yeah, and I mean, half the battle in this is to kind of present a clear slate of options to the customer service team, so they know they have a menu to choose from and they can answer questions quickly and, not have to like wrangle or cajole or try and, figure out like, oh, what's something we used to do 3 years ago, but, don't do now, or 10 years ago. So this is hopefully to me kind of like the final say on like what's possible.
Yeah. And I think you'll see more and more options added to it as we kind of test out different things.
Yep.
Like right now we're playing around with pull holes for pull-on boots, specifically like the Wellington
Pull
pull-on
holes,
boots.
yep.
Yeah. So
Yep.
instead of a pull loop, you'll have 2 holes cut on either side with, reinforcement around
Yep.
it, so you can just grab and pull from there.
Yep, that's nice.
So gives us a lot of fun options to play around
Yeah,
with.
I'd be curious when these start coming through.
Yeah.
It's gonna be interesting. And I think it'll be nice to be able to have like actual boot examples to show to people, and they can kind of see what those look like.
Yeah.
Full polar thin lining, I think, is awesome. I think that's a great option.
Yeah. I mean, we've gotten a lot of good feedback on just the polar thin on the Vamp.
And it's freezing here, so it's been kind of top of mind for me.
Yeah.
Andrew, what about you?
I really like the medallion toe caps. Like that on a Parker's vest. I feel like it look really nice. Or even on a Brandle.
Yeah,
If it's just like,
that's a good idea.
Yeah, Andrew keeps asking me if we're going to add Brandle options to the extra MTO. He really wants the brass heel plate.
Well, the Brandles are not available for
in his heel.
employees.
I know.
So,
He knows that. He really wants. I think that's why he wants the brass heel plate in the in a Knicks boot.
No, that'll never happen. It's a signature element.
But no, I think it opens up a lot of options for us. Kind of makes things simpler. You don't have to jump through the hoops of talking to customer service and then being like, let me check. We don't really do that. Let's see what we can do. Maybe I can do it for you. But yeah, I think it offers some unique options again that we've done in the past that we know we can do, and again gives us the option of kind of playing around with that some more.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I'm excited to see these orders come through and get some photo examples of them. And I think it's an interesting step forward for us. So
I think should note some of these options, probably if this is your first time buying a pair of our boots, I would avoid some of these things. Not that they're bad options, but like double midsoles, things like that, can affect just how the boot feels. In terms of like a double midsole can make it really stiff. Doing mismates and custom uppers, if you need those things, you can do them, absolutely. But I would absolutely recommend reaching out to customer service to like really figure out what's right for you for some of these things, just so that your first buying experience can be best possibly can be.
Yeah, and as always, all the previous options are available.
Yep.
And don't like charge more or anything like
Exactly.
that. So.
Yeah, these are all just extra things you can choose to opt into.
Yep. Well, we're all about choice here at Nix. Again, excited to see some of these come through, and appreciate the time, Lucas. Thanks for joining and explaining some of these options. If you have any questions, guys, please reach out to us. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you later.
Thanks.
Bye.